This is a Hot Pie Media original.
Don't really want to go here too often, but it's at this moment with what is in the news cycle, it's unavoidable. I'll provide a moment of total disclosure on my end just to get it out of the way. But there's only one person that can save us. I mean, these are pretty dramatic moments right now. It's over. I mean, it's over. Not COVID over. It's just overall. It's just over. According to this person, he's the only one that can save us. And I wanted to bet. Oh, and I think it's a safe bet, and I don't think it's really up for much debate. I'm going to bet that 35% of this country believes he is the only one that can save us. We're going, quote, down the tubes as usual. So, yep, D. Trump is, I don't think it's safe to say that he's back. I don't know that he ever went away, and he's not going away anytime soon. But hasn't he done this before? It's a pretty, I'll never say brilliant because I think he's a buffoon. I think he's a clueless buffoon. That's another argument. He's going here again, and it works pretty well. And that is the stock market's going to crash without me. America will become a laughing stock without me. Lately, he's added, we're going in the tank without me. The last 8 months have been a disaster without me. All of this is code for to the 35%. It's a dog whistle to the 35% that if I'm not here to save you, you're going to die. Got it? So it's the usual dramatic, ridiculous stuff. This, of course, is all done on the same day that excerpts from a book that is coming out, written by a very credible author, arguably the most plugged in author of our generation, reports that military leaders had a plan in place in case Donald Trump went rogue and started a war as kind of a wag the dog strategy. Now, I have thoughts on that. Remember what I said, a buffoon. I have thoughts on that. That's another area where I think we can agree to disagree. I think it's kind of interesting how people react to the idea that this man, in my opinion, a complete clueless buffoon. I'm going to insert harmless. But whether this man was capable as president of a wag the dog strategy to start a war, I think it's an interesting argument. I've already decided mine, but you can have yours. So where are we now? What in the world is he doing? He's running until he says he's not running. That's what he's doing. A few things here, okay? That's it. He's running until he says he's not running. And we're along for the ride. And I think he runs until he says he's not going to run, which is, of course, the first question of the day. He needs the ego rush. This is my opinion. I don't think it's that far off, and I can explain why I don't think I'm that far off because I've been living this for several years. I've been in the quicksand of Donald Trump obsessions. I've been in the quicksand of Donald Trump idiocy. I've arrived at my opinions by living through the process of this idiotic time in our life when America's happily become dumb. So he needs the ego rush. So what gets Trump not to run, I think, is the better question. This filling this ego, this constant obsession, Kardashian-like obsession with me, just means that he's running until he says he's not going to run. What I don't know, and you can have an opinion on it, what I don't know is what gets him not to run. Because the power of this super serving him, this echo chamber of media, really kind of fuels the guy. I get it. And I don't think he's stopping. So I think the reasonable plan that we're now learning about has his time as president. Okay, now remember this. We sort of go through this in a process because otherwise, people flip a switch and say either you like Trump or you can't stand Trump, and that's it. That's the end of the discussion. And I think that's ridiculous, and that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is say he's running until he says he's not running. What gets him not to run? I don't know what stops him. I think he's being super served. So what gets him not to run? I don't think the echo chamber is going to stop at all because the echo chamber is super served by this. Then you've got seemingly the credible claim by credible military people that it was Wag the dog. Do you buy that? Do you believe it was a real risk? I have an opinion on that. But do you believe it was a real risk? I think every piece in the Woodward book, this is a Bob Woodward book, and I wonder, here's another question for everyone. He's running until he says he's not going to run. What gets him not to run? Next part, the Woodward book coming out, and I don't think all of the noise is an accident. By no means. I mean, Woodward wants to sell a book. The publisher wants to sell a book. It's pretty sensational stuff. You know, look, arguing Wag the dog and quoting military people as being terrified the guy was going to start a war to wag the dog. Wag the dog means you start a war to distract from what's happened. In this case, what happened was he lost an election and lost badly by 7 million votes. You damage his ego, he goes psycho. He's psycho anyway, but you damage his ego and he goes really crazy. So think about this. I know it's all twisted logic, but we are a twisted culture and he's a twisted dude with a very simple plan in life. Tell me I'm great. Does the Woodward book, the claim within the Woodward book, agree with it, disagree with it, find it credible or not? I think, and all the people we discussed today, I think Bob Woodward is far more credible than anybody in politics. I think he's far more credible than Donald Trump. I think he's far more honest in his writing than anybody in politics. So I find Woodward to be credible. But assuming you think it's credible, is it the accusations, the noise, the embarrassment, the shock value? Is that more likely to get Trump to run? I know it's twisted, but in his framework, his mindset, is this book coming out, the noise of the book, the number of people calling him crazy, even in the book, somebody said he had a fat butt. He does. He's fat. But is that more likely or less likely to get him to run? Now, there's a lot to this. We can talk about the book. I can share what I think, for full disclosure, what I think of Donald Trump. I have no problem doing it. I feel very, very comfortable saying it. I'm not thrown off at all. First up, though, why are we here, Jeff? Well, we're here for a number of reasons. I think for the first time in a long time, the noise is credible. I think for the first time in a long time, he's completing the sentences. And I think for the first time, he is really starting the dumpster fire of your life sucks without me. The country is ruined without me. He's living it and breathing it every moment now. So here he goes. Interview on Newsmax. I had no idea whatever happened to Sean Spicer. I used to call him Red Bull Boy because the guy was a hyper mess. I thought he was an Adderall every day. He would go to those news conferences and he was a shaking train wreck. Then he does Dancing with the Stars in really tight white pants, which is one of the worst moments I've ever seen in television. And now he's on Newsmax. Sean Spicer, who was once the press secretary for Donald Trump, he's now tan. He's lost a few pounds, and he's found his space on Newsmax. And, of course, he is going to kiss the butt of his former boss.
The people of our country respect us. They love our country, and they want to see our country succeed. And our country has gone really downhill in the last 8 months like nobody's ever seen before. And you go to these elections that are coming up in 22 and 24, we're not going to have a country left. The election was rigged, and we're not going to have a country left in 3 years. I'll
Mr.
tell
President,
you that.
You've been very generous with your time. Thank you for that. Before I let you go.
All right, so here it comes. Now, first of all, they had to cut him off because they've been sued for $1 billion. So if he goes down that path of the election was rigged, the voting machines were rigged, everyone at that company. Remember the last time that happened, some tan dude on there threw his microphone down and ran away. I mean, really ran away into the parking lot because they want no part of that lawsuit. Either way, we're all going to die without him. The stock market's going to crash without him. And you're not going to have any food without him. We're going to get laughed at without him. You get the idea. So Spicer sets him up perfectly. super serves him well. Then he follows up with the obligatory question. Now, there is one thing I want you to listen to closely that I find kind of interesting and disturbing. But Sean Spicer sets it up for him to talk about, are you going to run? And I believe he's going to say he's going to run until he says he's not. And I don't know when he's not. But at the end of it, they do this Newsmax promo. It's a positioning statement. Let me sort of tell you about the media business, because you constantly need in the media business to remind people what they're watching or listening to, and then you want to remind them why they're watching and listening to it so you can secure that position in their mind. So watch the Ron Burgundy pop in and tell you what you're listening to and why.
Before I let you go, I just got to ask this. You said that you've made up your mind about whether you're running again and that your supporters will be very happy about it. When do you plan on letting us know what that decision is?
I will probably not comment on that, but I will tell you, I think you will be very happy, Sean. I think you and a lot of other people that love our country are going to be very happy. I mean, I could make it soon, but, that gets complicated. But you are going to be extremely happy. And this country is going to come back again. We are a laughing stock all over the world. What happened in Afghanistan, what's happening at our border where millions of people are coming in. We have no idea who they are. It's a disgrace. What's happening to our country.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them. Tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.
Not fake people. I love this. What, you're for the real people, not the fake people. That's her job. She's just out of broadcast school, tanning a lot. It's either this, really want to be on entertainment TV, but what gig do I have? I get to read positioning statements for Newsmax for real people. That made me laugh. Okay, so it's real news for real people. Do with that whatever you want. So, okay, remember what I said. He's running until he's not running. And by the way, I think he has a real chance to win. He's running until says he's not running. And I don't know what that is, when that is, what day that is, what event that is, because it sounds pretty dramatic right now. According to that guy, that Mussolini wannabe, according to that guy, we're going to just die in the next 3 years. It's going down. Everything's happening. Remember, that stock market was going to crash as soon as he left office. That's it. It's all over. It's all over. Now, for full disclosure, let me get this out of the way. To some people, you know this already, but I will happily repeat my position on Donald Trump because he has become a dividing line. I think that's silly. I think it's unfortunate. I think Donald Trump's appeal, I promise you, I've arrived at this having heard a lot, lived through a lot, agreed to disagree a lot. So I feel perfectly comfortable with what I'm about to say. I think Donald Trump's appeal has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with ideology. He offers neither of those things. Neither. His appeal is that he is the middle finger to cultures that 35% of this country don't like. That's it. To a person who follows and idolizes D. Trump, he represents an FU to cultures and people you don't like. And you think they've ruined your life, and you're happy that he represents an FU. That's powerful, by the way. I think it's real. I think it's powerful. He doesn't offer any policy or ideology except I will happily say F you to people you don't like. Okay? He's an elitist liar. He despises the people that idolize him. He would have nothing to do with the people that idolize him. He has no connection to the people who idolize him, but he does represent a giant foam finger for them. They think their life sucks. They think their life is under attack. And frankly, it is true. The economy has left them behind and they're pretty frustrated. They were frustrated before Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump is just a megaphone for their frustration. That's what I think. That's what I think the appeal is. And that's why I think the appeal is so powerful. Life sucks. F you. That's what Trump is. Nothing else. Nothing else. I learned this by attempting to argue policy with people on talk radio for a long time. And I finally arrived at, it doesn't matter what policy he says. You even got it wrong. You don't care and you don't hear it. What you're mad at, you don't like them. That's it. So he'll perform for the 35%. He will gladly give the middle finger to those who idolize him anytime, any place, any way. That's my opinion of him and the people that worship him. I think idolizing him, frankly, is pathetic. It's done nothing for the people that idolize him. Nothing has changed. Your life is not getting better. Nothing is changing. You're not in the stock market. You complain about the stock market. So he's done nothing for people that idolize him. At the same time, I've said it before, but I'll repeat it for full disclosure. I think that Joe Biden is president because of Donald Trump. That's the only reason. He isn't Trump and he's old and white. That's why he's president. I also believe, given that our presidential race is decided by a very few select counties in the Midwest and Georgia, if Trump runs again, it'll be very close because the people that idolize him are still going to idolize him, and the culture war that he represents is not going away. And I will say this, if he offered up a policy that I agree with, I'll happily agree with it. But that's all he is, but it's a powerful thing. So then we get to the Woodward book, which again, he says he's going to run until he says he's not going to run. What gets him not to run? If you give him opportunities to feel idolized and smile at him and clap for him and, becomes the circus, the Kardashian-like circus act that he is. That's honestly what I think of him. He's just a Kardashian circus act for 35% of this country. You keep super serving that ego and applauding for the circus act, and he'll keep running. He doesn't know any different. So I don't know what gets him not to run. Now, the Woodward book. I know people would say, well, this is terrifying. Yes, it is. This is dramatic. No doubt. Woodward is credible. I don't know why. I mean, I understand that 35% of you have automatically said F you, Ward. I don't care. I feel perfectly comfortable. Woodward is credible. Trump is easy because Trump is a circus act. I think we all fall prey to it. I fall prey to it. You can't help but notice the train wreck of a human being that's a circus act. I don't know anything about the Kardashians, but I suspect it's the same obsession with the Kardashians. You can't look away. They're a mess. He's a mess. So the argument that says, man, people are just obsessed with writing about him and talking about him is absolutely true. Just like the Kardashians. There's an appeal there you can't get away from. And oh, by the way, he's president. It kind of matters. So, yeah, is Woodward writing a bunch of books about him? Yes. Is there a lot of talk about him? Absolutely. But I think Woodward is credible. I don't think for a single second any honest person, any reasonable thinker would say Woodward made this up. But does it terrify you? Is this book, now think about this, this is twisted logic again. He's running, he says he's running until he says he's not running. This book coming out, as damaging as you think it might be to 60% of you, are you sure this doesn't encourage him to run? You sure about that? Is it more likely? Is it more likely to get him to run? Here you go. I'll read some of this. Then I have a thought on this. And you can think for yourself whether you think the military, the leaders of our military, smart people, also, by the way, very credible, serious people. They're not buffoons. Trump is a buffoon. They're not. Now, you can think if you would like, and I think 35% of the public will. There's another example of everyone out to get him. Okay. 2 days after the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, President Donald Trump's top military advisor, Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley, single-handedly took secret action to limit Trump from potentially ordering a dangerous military strike or launching nuclear weapons, according to Peril, a new book by legendary journalist Bob Woodward and veteran Washington Post reporter Robert Costa. Woodward and Costa write that Milley, deeply shaken by the assault, was certain that Trump had gone into a serious mental decline in the aftermath of the election, with Trump now all but manic, screaming at officials and constructing his own alternate reality about endless election conspiracies. Milley worried that Trump could go rogue. According to the book, Milley told his senior staff, "You never know what a president's trigger point is." In response, Milley took extraordinary action and called a secret meeting at his Pentagon office on January 8th to review the process for military action, including launching nuclear weapons. It's not light subject matter, by the way. The Pentagon's war room, Milley instructed them not to take orders from anyone unless he was involved. He says, quote, "No matter what you are told, you do the procedure, you do the process, and I'm part of that process." He then went on, according to the authors, he went around the room, looked at each officer in the eye, and asked him to verbally confirm they understood. "Got it," Milley said. "Yes, sir," each answered. Milley considered it an oath. Peril is based on more than 200 interviews with firsthand participants and witnesses and paints a chilling picture of Trump's final days in the office. The book, Woodward's third on the Trump presidency, recounts behind-the-scenes moments of a commander-in-chief unhinged and explosive, yelling at advisors and aides he desperately sought to cling to power. Milley's fear was based on his own observations of Trump's erratic behavior. His concern was magnified by the events of January 6th. And again, I mean, you're going to say, "Oh, man, we know this, we know this, we know this." I don't know that you do. And I think this does put you on the spot. And I don't think you have an option as a citizen, as a voting citizen. Otherwise, get back on your couch and take a nap. This needs to put you on a spot of thinking this through. One, you can say, "I'm terrified of the guy. This confirms my terror that he's a dangerous human being." You can think that. I don't, by the way, but you can think that. But then you can think, is this book and the explosive comments in this book, are you sure it's not going to entice the 35% and Trump himself? Remember my theory. I don't think it's that far off. He is consumed with being a Kardashian. He doesn't know why. I find him kind of a rat on a little wheel. That's how pathetic I think he is. But he needs the confirmation. Are you sure this noise doesn't entice him more? I know that's counterintuitive. Okay, so the book goes on. Milley's fear was based on his own observations of Trump's erratic behavior. Milley received a blunt phone call. I think this helps the Trump lovers. Milley received a blunt phone call from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, according to the book, during which Milley tried to reassure Pelosi that the nuclear weapons were safe. Pelosi pushed back. "What I'm saying to you is that if they couldn't even stop him from an assault on the Capitol, who knows what else he may do? And is there anybody in charge at the White House who is doing anything but kissing his fat butt over all this?" Pelosi continued, "You know he's crazy. He's been crazy for a long time." You know, that fat butt comment is going to set him off. He's fat, but it's going to set him off. Okay, that fat butt comment is the one thing. He's not going to be mad about nuclear war. He's not going to be mad about the allegation that the guy wanted to start World War III. He's going to be mad because Nancy Pelosi said he had a fat butt. That might get him to run. He's going to call her plastic face, and she is. All right, so then you get to this. Woodward and Costa, right, the top national security officials were worried Trump might pull a wag the dog, provoking a conflict domestically or abroad to distract from his crushing election loss. When Trump, by the way, I think there is an indicator of what happens next. He's not fueled by winning or losing like the way you think. I think he's fueled by the ego that comes with winning and losing, the shame that comes with losing. That's what fueled him. It's not because he wanted to do something for the country. He doesn't do anything for anybody. He doesn't care. But the embarrassment, is that going to drive him to run? Or is the embarrassment of losing by 7 million votes going to drive him away from running? When Trump refused to concede in November 2020, CIA Director Gina Haspel warned Milley. Wasn't she appointed by him? Warned Milley, we are on the way to a right-wing coup. The whole thing is insanity. He is acting out like a 6-year-old with a tantrum. She asked Milley, this is a highly dangerous situation. We are going to lash out for his ego? I don't believe anybody that's quoted in the book has said, I didn't say that yet. But I don't know that. This has only been out for a few hours. Does anybody know? I don't think that's true. I don't think any of these reasonable people, these serious people have said, no, I didn't say that. Notice that? I don't know about you, but if I were that important, I might say, hey, what do you do? I didn't say that. Notice how nobody's saying, I didn't say that. On November 4, the day after the election, Trump seemed privately ready to acknowledge defeat, according to advisor Kellyanne Conway. How the hell did we lose the vote to Joe Biden, he said, but he made a phone call to loyalists, including Rudy Giuliani. Trump embraced the false and damaging conspiracy theories of election fraud. Then Attorney General William Barr, a Trump appointee, tried to talk sense into Trump, telling him the claims of fraud were bogus. The problem is this stuff about the voting machines is all BS. Your team is a bunch of clowns, he told Trump. By the way, has he ever said, I didn't say that? But the real reason, and I think the real master of Trump the puppet, not Trump the ideology guy, not Trump the strategy guy. I believe that the mastermind of Donald Trump is actually a brilliant, driven, dangerous, sinister man by the name of Steve Bannon. Notice how in the book, and I think Trump is just that much of a buffoon puppet, that Bannon got his guy. Bannon got the guy who could be a circus act. No, not many people are willing to be a circus act. Trump is. He's made a career out of it. He's good at it. December 30th, Steve Bannon convinced Trump to come back to the White House from Mar-a-Lago to prepare for the events of January 6th. You've got to return to Washington and make a dramatic return today, he said. You've got to call Pence off the effing ski slopes and get him back here today. This is a crisis. The authors write that Bannon told Trump that January 6th was the moment for reckoning. People are going to go. What the F is going on here, Bannon said. We're going to bury Joe Biden January 6th. Effing bury him. Let's do it. No, Trump shouted, according to authors, to Mike Pence. Mike Pence wanted no part of it, according to the authors. Does anybody not believe this stuff? No, Trump shouted, according to the authors. You don't understand, Mike. You can do this. I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this. What he wanted, you know what he wanted. He wanted, this is why the goons came to kill Mike Pence, and this is why. This is why the goons showed up that day. The terrifying goons showed up to get Mike Pence because of this. Trump did not want him to certify the election. He even went so far, as anybody said, they didn't say this. You can do this. I don't want to be your friend anymore if you don't do this. Come on, Mike. All right. So Costa writes that Pence reached out to Dan Quayle. There's a joke there. Who had been the vice president of George H.W. Bush. Over and over, Pence asked Quayle, is there anything I can do? Mike, you have no flexibility on this, Quayle said. None. Zero. Forget it. Put it away. Don't go here, Mike. I do know the position you're in, Quayle said. I also know what the law is. You have to listen to the parliamentarian. That's all you do. You have no power on this, Mike. Trump ignored repeated requests by both staff and his daughter to call off the rioters on January 6th. I'm not saying it was his fault. Retired General Keith Kellogg, who advises Donald Trump on foreign policy and military issues, said, you should really do a tweet. This is during January 6th. You need to get out a tweet really quickly. Help control the crowd. This is out of control. They're not going to be able to control this, sir. They're not prepared for it. Once a mob starts turning like that, you've lost it. Please send out a tweet. Trump, yeah. Trump then looked and started watching television. Okay, so, I don't know that anybody's all that surprised. People that worship Trump, the culture war, those involved in a culture war, those who are saying, I don't care, F you to the world, F you to the economy, F you to Austin, Texas, F you to technology companies, F you to everyone who's not like me because the world is leaving me behind. They don't care. This might be gasoline on their energy to push harder for him. So then you have to say, a very credible book that's going to be talked about a lot. It should be, by the way. This should be discussed. This should be debated. Everyone should have a chance to say yes or no. I said that. I don't think it's going to change anybody's opinion. I don't think it's going to change the 35%. I'm asking the honest question, is this more likely to get him to run? Crazy as that sounds. Then it's going to make people think, 60-something% of you think, this guy can't run. He had credible, serious, sensible military people terrified he was going to start a war. No way, no how. I get it. I don't think he's that dangerous. I don't. I know this sounds terrible. I know that Mark Milley understandably thought he's that dangerous. I don't think Trump's that dangerous. I think Trump is such a clueless, incompetent buffoon, he couldn't have pulled this off. Now, I get that if I'm not in the military, I don't work in the Pentagon, I get how you might be a little bit worried that the guy with nukes is a lunatic. But I don't think he's a dangerous lunatic. He's just an incompetent, Kardashian-like buffoon. He is a male version of Kim Kardashian, who's fat and old. It's the same concept. His model, his career is the same. So I'm not sure I'm going to get worked up. You can. I don't care. I'm not sure I'm going to get worked up that this was this day. We are about to go to war because of this incompetent man. I don't think it was going to happen because I don't think he could do it. I don't think he would care enough. He doesn't care. Kim Kardashian doesn't care. He doesn't care. Was it an overreaction by military leaders? I get some of it. Now, the Fox News crowd is going to say it's an overreaction because they want to ruin him. That whole serious agenda. There's nothing serious about this man. There is no thought to this man. I'm not that worried about him. He's a buffoon, completely incompetent. So I think I'm going to fall down the middle of, oh no, we were going to go to war, or the people that are now saying, well, see you elites. Where did Milley go to school? I think he went to Princeton. By the way, Trump went to Penn, you doofus. But whatever. They're out to get him, I don't buy that either. But I don't buy that even if somebody said, you know what, Mr. President, you're really angry, start a war. I don't think he could pull it off. I think he'll get in his chair and play in the crossword puzzle and watch Wheel of Fortune. I don't think he thinks enough. I think he's that much of a buffoon. Now then, they're going to be these comebacks. I've heard this before. I lived through this discussion about Trump. Trust me, I've lived through it. I've heard every argument. He can't be a buffoon. He's made all this money. Okay, if you think being a huckster in a circus act is smart and brilliant, I'll accept that. I don't accept that Kim Kardashian is brilliant. She's had the same career. Same thing. You are a publicity seeker, and you are rewarded by being such a limitless publicity seeker. You're going to get rich. I agree with that. I think that is true. I don't know Kim Kardashian. I suspect, I don't know everything, has no skills, no redeeming qualities whatsoever. She has no skill set, except she is obsessed with publicity. I think the same thing of Trump. That's how he's made it. That's how he made money. And if you think that's a brilliant way to make money, okay, you think that. He's pulled that off. I don't think he was going to start a war because I don't think he can. I don't think he wants to be president because he has some idea to get out of this, quote, hole that we're in. I think he only wants to run because he just wants people to clap for him and pat him on the back. And if he were a 28-year-old tanned woman, he would just be looking for Instagram reinforcements. That's all he is. So back to the beginning. He says he's going to run until he says he's not going to run. What gets him not to run? Knowing that, does the book encourage him or discourage him to run. Hey, every guy can relate to this. You're tired of wearing those baggy cotton shirts that feel like you're wearing curtains. There's a difference. In fact, I'm wearing the difference. That is the ultra premium basics from goodlifeclothing.com. You'll love the shirts. I've been searching for a long time, like every guy, for the perfect lightweight shirt that looks good if you're in pretty good shape. It's at goodlifeclothing.com. Check them out. You'll see the difference for yourself. You'll feel the difference for yourself. It's the perfect shirt for this time of year in Austin, Texas. So, two things. Go to goodlifeclothing.com. You get a 20% discount if you enter the promo code JeffWard20. That's goodlifeclothing.com. Enter the promo code JeffWard20 or stop by their store domain Northside. You'll love the difference. You'll feel the difference. It's the perfect fit for a guy that's in good shape. It's goodlifeclothing.com, promo code JeffWard20, or stop by their brand new store at Domain Northside. So just a few days ago, a very smiling Greg Abbott was happy to let all of you know that your First Amendment rights are going to be protected because the state of Texas, the big government that is the state of Texas, the all-powerful government that is the state of Texas, is going to force companies, social media platforms to carry your idiotic comments. So in other words, what we've now done in less than 3 days. Number one, you know how many lawsuits there have been about posting comments? That would be 0. Number two, we are going to, in the words of Greg Abbott and the other geniuses, we are going to protect your First Amendment rights by violating First Amendment rights. That's what we're doing. Congratulations, taxpayers. You're walking directly into lawsuits that you will lose because the logic of your political heroes was very predictable. This is not a difficult one to see coming. Their logic in their butt kissing, their pandering to the 35% is walking you into lawsuits you will lose. And you'll lose right away. Protect the First Amendment, allegedly, by violating the First Amendment. Here's how it's going to play out. It didn't take long, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care what happens, what the effects are. He doesn't care what the substance is. He only cares about 35% of you saying, right on, man. Okay. Well, you're getting your neighbor sued, doofus. Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a bill that forbids the largest social media companies from removing users or their posts based on their political viewpoints. It lets Texans sue social media websites. The law, okay, way to go, big government, way to go. The law categorizes social media platforms as, quote, public forums and common carriers, a term often used to describe phone companies or utilities. Gosh, that's funny. Didn't I raise the question, are these utilities or not? Well, the answer is or not. So what he's done, because he doesn't care about anything of substance or lawsuits or the money or what it does to companies, he doesn't care. To, quote, protect the First Amendment, he's going to violate the First Amendment. All right, here's how it's going to work. While the law claims it protects, oh, by the way, the law empowers the state's attorney general, and God knows you want him in charge. You know that you want that righteous crusader out there. The law empowers the state's attorney general and private citizens to sue over alleged violations. In other words, Joe Bob Buckethead in Odessa wants to go on some Klan rant about something, and he's kicked off. Joe Bob Buckethead reaches out to Ken Paxton, the moral compass, and it's game on. Joe Bob Buckethead will lose. And in the process of Joe Bob Buckethead and your dumbass attorney general who doesn't care about substance either, you're going to lose the lawsuit. Oh, well. While the law claims it protects individuals from censorship on social media websites, it also appears to violate private corporations' own speech rights. Oh, you mean they have rights too? No way. You know, the government in Texas used to care about those companies. Not now. Free speech scholars say the Texas government unconstitutionally dictates political speech on the world's largest platforms by forcing, okay, let this sink in, Joe Bob Buckethead, you love big government. You love it. The state government unconstitutionally dictates political speech on the world's largest platform by forcing platforms to carry favored views. Yeah. Oh, so we're going to save the First Amendment by grotesquely violating the First Amendment. That is great logic. Way to go, voters. Good for you. The tech industry group NetChoice says the Texas law forces websites to host, and this is exactly right. This is exactly what it's going to do. Joe Bob Buckethead needs his Klan rant to be heard. We're going to make sure of it. So, I don't know. Should the private business be able to decide not to piss off their advertisers, not to piss off other people on the platform, just because Joe Bob Buckethead needs to be heard in his Klan rant? The answer is yes. And we're going to lose. We're going to lose. It's 3 days in, and we're already losing. You're going to lose, taxpayers. Tech industry NetChoice says the Texas law forces websites to host, ready for it, obscene, anti-Semitic, racist, hateful, and otherwise awful content. That is absolutely correct. The point of the law, not even to say with all due respect to the governor and the attorney general, the point is to let Joe Bob Buckethead say horrible things. That's the point. And try and legally lose, try to force the tech companies to let Joe Bob Buckethead go on his rant, of which we are losing. Then you got this. Social media platforms enjoy First Amendment rights to set and enforce rules about content free from government restrictions, says Jonathan Peters, media law professor, just like every other media law professor would agree. They're right. The state of Texas is wrong. Social media platforms enjoy First Amendment rights to set and enforce rules about content free from government restrictions. Got it, giant government, Texas? Got it? He says, quote, this is a law professor. I bet he's right. That means the platforms can decide what may be posted, who may have an account, and under what conditions, and when to honor requests to remove content, how to display and prioritize content using algorithms, and so on. Texas will face a tough battle to ensure the law survives judicial review. It does not appear any lawsuits have been filed yet. We're 3 days in, and it's going to be kicked to the curb already, but it doesn't matter. The point is nothing of substance matters with this. We were going to lose. We were going to lose from the beginning. It was a total violation. It was a total disregard of anybody's real rights, because you don't have a right, Joe Bob Buckethead or anybody else, to a post. You don't have that right. But it didn't stop Greg Abbott from making a law and smiling about it. He made a law that he knew, and every other sensible legal person knows, was going to lose right away, but did it anyway. And we're now 3 days in, and they've already said, you lose. You keep it up, you're going to get sued, and you're going to lose. That's just the way it is. What is amazing, what doesn't sink in to most thinking human beings is they didn't care. They never once cared. They don't care now. They don't care if every one of these companies sue the state of Texas, sue and win. They don't care. They don't care what it costs. They made Joe Bob Buckethead happy because they told him we tried. Joe Bob Buckethead, we tried. You're so sick of those big tech companies turning on you, Joe Bob Buckethead. We may not love that you post Klan rants. We may not like it. We may not like your Klan posts. But vote for us, Joe Bob Buckethead, and we'll say we defend you. And we'll lose, but we'll say we defend you.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.